The UK is absolutely dead. I want to sell this property.
What are you going to do with the money?
I want to buy cryptocurrency.
Oh my God, Saif!
I think being a landlord and living off that rent is extremely hard.
I don't know what is going on. What did the police say? So you
Exhibit-
weren't really selling drugs? Hi everyone and welcome back to my podcast, and today I'm here with another amazing guest, Saif, who has come all the way from
Lincoln,
He's took the train down, so thank you very much for coming down.
you're welcome.
I have to introduce him. He's done some amazing things. He has bought and sold, flipped, as you call it, 240 properties in a short term of property business lifestyle. He has also got a property management company managing 400 plus properties, some of his own portfolio. He has a buying and trading company which he buys and sells properties from, and he's very big on volume. He also is an amazing husband and dad. So we want to know all about him today. How do you do it? Welcome to my pod. Thank you for coming down first.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and what an amazing setup as well. I'm so excited for this.
And also, I forgot you won a massive award, so congratulations.
Thank you.
On that. Was that 2023?
That was 2022. It was Property Trader of the Year for
Property
2022.
Trader of the Year award. So massive hats off to you for that one.
Thank you.
How did that feel?
Good. I mean, you know what? Like, as entrepreneurs, you just kind of go through life and you're kind of, you never get your head up, your head's always down doing things. So it was nice to actually be recognized for something, because I felt like the last 7 years of my life, I gave it up for something, which was that. And although it's just an award, but it just meant a lot to me personally, to be honest with you. So, yeah.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So you're originally from?
So originally from Iraq, born and bred in London, Hammersmith, lived there for sort of 12, 13 years. And then I basically ended up moving down to Brighton, went to uni there, kind of graduated from uni. I did pharmacy at uni. And then I basically ended up going to do my training year in Manchester. So I did about a year's training in Manchester. Loved Manchester, loved the lifestyle. That was when it was 2013/14. So it was really the up and coming trendy, they were getting all the coffee shops and the kind of co-working spaces. And that's when I bought my first property, actually, in 2015 in Manchester.
A lot of good come from Brighton University.
I know.
And a lot of entrepreneurs that have actually studied there. So it's a great university to go to, I guess.
One of my friends, well, she didn't actually go to Brighton, but one of my friends who was there, his wife is now in The Apprentice, so that's pretty cool. She was a pharmacist as well. Wow. Shout out to Amna, who's on The Apprentice. So, yeah, Brighton's had a lot of really successful people coming out of it, to be fair.
So from pharmacist to a massive property trader, I would say you're probably one of the biggest property traders I know.
Okay.
So that's quite an achievement, considering I've been doing property for 17 years. 240 in the space of 7 years is obviously massive. So you're brought up in...
So brought up in Hammersmith. Yeah.
Then to Brighton, then to Manchester. There's quite a lot of movement there.
Yeah.
What was your upbringing like?
Do you know what? My dad's been an entrepreneur, so he was an entrepreneur his whole life. Kind of came to London in the 60s. He had to get like an entrepreneur's visa at the time, so he had basically bought a business. I think it was a quilt manufacturing business in London at the time. Then he moved on to a cookie manufacturing business, just really entrepreneurial. And he was a big landlord. So he was a landlord. He had, pretty cool properties in kind of some great locations like Marble Arch, etc., Queensway in London, and amassed a pretty decent portfolio. But the problem was he took his eye off the ball. So he went traveling and kind of moved out of London moved out of the UK for a couple of years, and basically just didn't take control of the rents and everything else, and was just depending on agents. And then it only took a couple of those flats, because they were pretty premium with pretty high rents. Took a couple of them, especially when mortgage rates were he was telling me 18%.
Yeah.
It just basically wiped him out. And he basically went through, pretty much handed all the keys back and basically got repossessed on his properties. This was sort of back in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
So obviously you're born into that.
Yeah.
So you were born into a childhood where your dad was a massive entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then he lost a lot of it, or gave up, which is very, very common, especially now. Kind of seeing a pattern of that. Even I'm giving up London and I'm heading to Dubai. So, and I know a lot of people in the older generation that have adopted the old ways of property that are now we don't know about social media.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go down the social media route. We're just going to give up. We've had enough.
Yeah.
So how did that feel as a child seeing your dad in that position?
So obviously that was kind of in the 70s, 80s. I was basically born in 91, and that's kind of so when I was born and kind of when I guess remember when I was a child, he was kind of in that phase of trying to build himself back up. So I didn't really see him go through it, but he was telling me all about it, and what he went through. But what it made me want is it made me want to succeed, but it also made me want to learn all of his lessons of what went wrong, because I thought that was the most valuable thing that you can have is what went wrong. And then if you can take that away and basically implement something to prevent that, I thought that was huge. What better can you do than basically learning from people's lessons?
So how did you do that?
I mean, I understood realistically. I sat down, I asked him questions. We always sort of sit down and have a chat. But just to give you an example, the biggest thing that he did was he wasn't asset managing. And now everyone knows what asset managing is now, but no one really knew what it was 20, 30, 40 years ago in the context of being a landlord that kind of is, on a smaller scale, not an institutional landlord. But asset management for me is more about, there's multiple different things you can do, but it's more about managing the managing agent. So the simple thing like, do you have a rent control sheet? So do you know when your rents are coming in, when they're due to come in every month, and do you tick it off basically to say, yep, rents come in, it's exactly as I expected? Or do you just expect the managing agent is going to do it for you? Because I can tell you, I own a managing agency, and even we have to internally asset manage that managing agency as well as other agents.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really, really important to basically have control, i.e. a control sheet to say our rents have come in every month. And then if it's not, why is it not? Why have they not paid, etc. So that's the kind of little things that I took away. And I said, I want to set up a proper system, a proper process. Because don't forget, the government are pushing you in the direction of trying to be a professional landlord. They don't want Mr. and Mrs. Smith that own one or two houses here or there, and they're basically quite amateur because they're accidental landlords. They want professional landlords with a professional setup.
Yeah. So what was your drive then as a young child? What you've learned these lessons from your father in property, but you were kind of born into the property space. But then what was your drive and change that went into pharmacy? Like, was it something you had to trial and challenge, or?
I'll be honest with you, until this day, I have no clue why I chose pharmacy. I don't know if it's, like...
Because I picked law, but it's kind of related, so...
Obviously I come from an Arabic background, and the kind of culture is normally like, you've got to be...
engineering, isn't it?
Well, pharmacy, doctor, engineering, lawyer, one of them. And I think for me, I just wasn't really... I'm trying to remember back to when I was 17 and I was doing my UCAS application. I don't think I know why I did it. I think I just did it. Yeah, I was pretty good. I was pretty good academically. I'm not going to lie. But I just kind of did it. But to me, it really did build a really good foundation for me because I did a master's, it's a 4-year degree with a master's as well. It really built a good foundation for me to kind of take that and then build more and further on it. And it's that old age saying, you kind of got to get into things to be in things. And for me, uni took me different places that I wouldn't be where I am today if I wasn't without it. So I don't regret it, but it's not something that, I did consciously, let's put it that way.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff about this actually, especially with entrepreneurs, most dropped out of university that I see, including myself. Do you feel like university is vital to be a professional entrepreneur?
Do you know what? I literally had this conversation yesterday with my wife. We were saying, my little daughter's called Delilah, we're saying, would Delilah potentially go to uni, etc.? And I said, I don't really mind whether she wants to or doesn't want to go to uni. I think the problem is it's whether they're conscious because, it's maturity, isn't it? If they're mature enough and they're conscious enough to make a decision to say, do you know what, I don't need to go to uni because I want to start either a job to learn from or a business, whatever it is, I don't mind. But not going to uni because they're being lazy and don't want to do it is something different for me. As long as they have some kind of drive, some kind of motivational, conscious thinking of, I don't want to go to uni because... and there's something subjective behind it, that's fine. But it's just not going to uni because you want to basically sit in the streets all day or
obviously not.
But you know what I mean? Like basically get up to no good.
It's the new generation,
but if you want to...
working less and wanting more, and it's like, I don't understand it. I'm very old school like that, so I get that.
I 100% believe in trial and error. I 100% believe in doing something and figuring it out because that's how I started. That's how I did everything. And I think there's nothing wrong with her doing that. So you don't have to have a university degree.
What qualities do you think university gave you?
Discipline, to basically be on time and make sure that you're doing things as well of being organised, but also making sure that when things needed to be done, i.e. you have exams, you have coursework, whatever it is, you have to literally focus on that and you have to put all the time and effort into it. I'm the type of person that went to university and I had 4 years. I did nothing for the first 2 years, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I absolutely grafted the third and fourth year, and I came out with the first, basically.
Wow, well
But
done.
for someone that saw me in the first and second year, they'll be like, no way is this guy ever going to even,
How did it make you feel getting that first?
Do you know what? It made me feel like proud, like really proud, because I put in so much time and effort when it was needed.
Yeah.
But then the problem with that was it was almost like this high, and then nothing happens after it. You know what I mean? So what ends up happening is you come out with the first. It doesn't make any difference. Like even when you go for a job, it's not like it's going to give you a much higher salary or whatever. In today's day and age, a first doesn't make any difference to a 2-1 or a 2-2, whatever it is.
Do you feel like that's things with everything in life? I feel like I've been doing obviously a lot of self-help. I've done a lot of help in myself, and I've realised that my goals, I get there and then I'm like, okay, what next? What let me move on to my next goal. On my vision board, I would accomplish over at my vision board, and I'd be like, okay, let's now fill up the new vision board. But I feel like if you really don't know what's driving it's happiness is something we actually don't realise is what we need to feel happy with everything that we're getting out of. So, for example, the first, as long as we're happy and we get this first, then I think it will elevate us to do more.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like we lose track of that goal. So we got to the like, for example, you flip 240 properties, and now what's your next goal? Is it like 500, or is it going to keep buying more? And then do you feel complete satisfaction, or do you always feel like you get to a point you're like, okay, what next now? I've got here. Like with your degree, getting the first is an amazing accomplishment. But did you then say, okay, quickly, I've got to do something else now? Or did you, right now I'm like reflection, how does this make me feel?
So this is something that I really spent a lot of time and effort to actually understand, and I've been through a journey myself. But to me, it's that kind of, you've bought a car, which you could have never have ever had, and you've dreamt of, and no one that you know has that car.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you meet someone that's very successful who has a much better car than you. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that kind of feeling of excitement and content has gone now because I want something better, because I've seen something better.
Yeah.
Same thing with the house, right? If you live in a really nice house and then you found an even better house and you're like, this is my dream home. All of a sudden you go on YouTube and you see all these amazing houses, and then you're like, that's no longer my dream home anymore. So I think the problem is we're constantly looking at other people and what other people have. But the thing that I always say to everyone is, you can all be successful. Everyone can be successful once you become content with what you've got. Because once you start actually being exercising gratitude and being grateful for, I've got good health, I've got a family that loves me, cares about me, I've got a roof over my head.
The best things in life are free. So
exactly.
That's what you need to
So
always
I do
take into
think that
consideration.
Success comes from basically appreciating what you've got and just having what you've got. Because as soon as it's taken away from you, success to you will be just bringing that back.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is where I kind of have this dilemma, right? At the same time, I don't want to be content because I also want to be growing. So I found that life is yin and yanging. So you kind of go through cycles of ups and downs, but trajectory generally is growing pretty much in one direction.
Yeah.
And to me, I kind of go through these growth cycles of 1 to 2 years, really growing, focusing on the team, being very, very aggressive with what we're doing. And then a year of kind of just taking a bit of a step back and thinking, how can I...
Your reflection of would you say like leveling up reflection year?
Yeah, basically.
That's how I feel I'm at now.
But also taking time out of the business to go on holiday, turning my phone off, turning my emails off, which I don't normally do. But you need to have those periods where you do them, you know?
I've been like that. I've been, for the last year, I've kind of stopped going on the holidays that I wanted to go to. I've forgotten about my bucket list and the stuff that I enjoy, because I actually just enjoyed getting to the next goal. Yeah. And that was my motivation, and I love it. And I think if you love what you do, no matter what happens, you're going to be happy. Absolutely. You know, so I love what I do. I don't like the challenges that comes with it sometimes, but that's just, you're always going to get these challenges. And like I said, as long as you are happy and content within yourself, the challenges, problems you just have to get faced with, shut off, let go, and move on with your life. Yeah. You know, so
you've just got to come to terms with problems that are always going to be there as an entrepreneur. It's as simple as
that's it. That is exactly, that's a great way to put it. So you seem like really, really sharp, and you've obviously know a lot about what you're doing, but there must have been a time, obviously I know that you graduated, and then what did you do with your pharmacy degree after? When you got to that first, you're like, yeah, I got a first. Now what do I do?
Yeah, so I actually started out in pharmacy. I got a job. I got a very good job, to be honest with you. I think it was at Superdrug at the time. So kind of way ahead of all my other peers that just graduated in terms of salary and position. I was actual pharmacy manager, and I thought this is great. Until one Saturday, a pharmacist close by basically sent me. I think he sent me a medication, whatever it was that we didn't have that we asked from him, and then basically put a note saying, "I'm looking for a pharmacist. Are you interested?" And I absolutely blagged it. I'm not going to lie. He basically said, "You know, what salary do you earn at the minute?" Blah blah blah. And I basically said to him, I think it was something like
half of what, double what you're
basically
getting.
nearly double of what I was getting,
Yeah.
etc. And it was timing. He really needed me at the time, and ended up getting that job. And
That's
that was
life, isn't it?
it was a very, very well paid job. It was a very easy, I'm not going to lie, it was a very easy job because it was like he had his main pharmacy that was making all his money. He had this one little satellite pharmacy that came with it, who was basically the ugly sister. He didn't really want to deal with it. So he put me in there, but it was absolutely like the easiest thing ever. But he just wanted to kind of completely shut off from it and focus on what was making him money. So that was kind of me kind of going through that. And then what I actually did was I started a pharmaceutical sort of / healthcare business. It was really simple what I did. I went to manufacturers in the UK, basically knocked on as many doors as I can and said, look, you guys are missing a big opportunity here of Middle East, Asia, Europe. You guys are not actually exporting. You're just focused on the UK market. And they're saying to me, yeah, but the UK market for us is £20 million. So why do we need the export market? I basically said I put a proposal together, said, look, it's not going to cost you a single penny. I'm going to put my margin on top of your price. I'm going to go out and I'm going to find these buyers for you and I'm going to get you orders. So you're just going to be making money risk-free. Most of them said no. One of them said yes. They believed in me. I did 825 grand's worth of sales for them in the first year of them saying yes to it. Wow. And I was going out to Dubai. I went to, they have the Arab Health exhibition, which is the biggest healthcare exhibition in the world. I went out there. I basically just grafted. I just took a business card. I literally knew nothing. This was 2015. I literally
what were
knew
you
nothing.
selling?
I was basically selling vitamins and healthcare products manufactured in the UK. But the good thing, so I wasn't actually going in.
So you weren't really selling drugs. It was natural vitamins.
It was natural vitamins. There was different things, but for me at that point it was healthcare products. So it was mainly vitamins, so natural supplements. But basically you would go and exhibit there, but I didn't have the money to go and exhibit there. So I went around there basically trying to
hanging around like when you hang around the lobbies in the hotels with clients.
having meetings with distributors that were going there. So
brokers standing around looking for business all the time. It's so funny.
Exactly.
In Dubai.
But you know what? You've got to hustle, and
trust me, they get the sales.
and that was the hustle for me. So the one biggest, I'd say the actual biggest hiccup I had in that business though when I first started out was the long and short of the story was I clicked on an email that had a PDF said invoice. I've got loads of invoices at the time. Didn't think anything of it. And that was when my emails got intercepted at that time. So the scammers, whatever it was, they were kind of sat waiting for an email to say money or banking, whatever it is. Yeah. And it was a time when I was requesting for an invoice. So I said, please send me the invoice. It was a £36,500 order for an American healthcare company. And
is this you of your company or somebody else's at the time?
So this was my business buying from this American company to sell to a Middle East client. And even at the time, I said to the Middle East client, I was like, can you transfer the money? And then he was like, something was going on. He was like, look, I really need it. Just can you order it? And I'll make sure the money's transferred over to you next week. So I took my own risk with my own money. This was all the money that I had saved up for the last, like literally during my whole teenage years. I didn't spend any money. I saved it all up. And that was everything. And it kind of just...
God, you really were responsible to teenager by saving that money up.
I literally saved every single...
And you got frauded by that.
Got frauded by that.
What did the police say?
Didn't care about it. But then what happened was I called one of my friends who's in the Metropolitan Police. Yeah. And he basically kind of did me a favor and opened it, etc. And then he figured out who this lady was that basically the money went into. So he found out who she was, her bank account. They arrested her, and he called me and said, "Look, we could have prosecuted her, but we've had to release her just because she said one thing."
What?
And that one thing was that multiple people have access to her bank account. So they couldn't pin it on her unless they had CCTV or something showing. And it's like, that's impossible.
Disgusting.
But he said to me, Saif, there's millions going in and out of this account.
Wow. And she's still probably cracking on.
probably.
Still probably 14
She was in Grays,
people.
Essex. I remember it really clearly. She was in. They
God.
pinpointed it to her and everything else, and that's it. So look, I came to
Wow.
terms. I'll be honest with you.
How old are you?
I was 24 at the time, and I was
Massive
depressed.
lesson to learn at 24, right?
I was depressed for 2 weeks.
How did it make you feel? Like you've been robbed?
I mean, when I first knew about it, genuinely, I was like, you know, when I'm on the phone and speaking to the company saying, I'm just transferring money, and they're like, what money, what invoice, what email? And I think I just felt my heart sink, and I didn't even respond to it. Literally, just the phone fell out my hand, and I was just like, okay. And I just went quiet for a whole week. I didn't talk to my family, I didn't talk to anyone. For about a whole week, they were like, what the hell is that? We just need to know.
Did you not tell them? Because I'm like that. If I go through something,
No,
I don't tell
I kind
anyone.
of, at some point, like they either would have thought I
Yeah.
had, you know, some kind of like severe mental health illness, or I like had to tell them. So I kind of, I told my wife, and she was like, look, I appreciate it's difficult, but you know, you've kind of just got to get on with it. You know, she was also shocked as well.
So you
Like,
were with your wife still at that point?
that was
young?
when we first got married. That was when we first got
So
married. as
even
well.
another, like you've just gone into this new marriage and you've basically been robbed of your life savings.
Exactly.
And how was she with you on that?
She was obviously not happy
she
about
want
it,
it?
but she was also like, I need to support him.
Of
But
course.
I think the biggest thing was for her to say, do you know what, it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
do you know what, for me, that was the most pivotal moment of saying you're either going to make it or break it in business. And I look back at it at the time. A year after that, I did nothing for a year after that. I grafted.
I kind of wanted to say it, make it back, isn't it? I think that's what happens when you go through a loss. Because I've gone through a lot of losses this year.
And you got to
And
kind
I'm
of...
like, I need to make that back ASAP in my head.
the
back
mindset,
of your head.
the mindset is
Yeah.
don't chase your losses.
Yeah.
Don't
No,
try
no.
and go after it.
But
try and figure out how to make more money.
Make more and quick.
Exactly.
By not acting desperate and acting obviously very calculated. A lot more calculated than
For me,
when we made our mistakes, right?
And for me, I went on a campaign on LinkedIn, and I was just basically saying, this is what I do. It's actually, this was like 2016.
So when
16-ish.
LinkedIn was like just becoming a thing.
Yeah, LinkedIn was more of a CV platform than
Yeah.
it is now. And you can say I got lucky. You can say it was because of sheer desire, tenacity to keep going. And I ended up getting an order for £165,000, which made me a roughly £40,000 profit
Wow.
at that time. But that was a year of nothing to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is just incredible that it's just life, isn't it? It's just so beautiful that you can actually look at life and be like, okay, that was my hardest time of my life.
Yeah.
And it made me feel emotions that I probably will never feel again.
Absolutely.
And then I had to take that year out to yourself, which is important. So important to get yourself back to your best version of you, better than you was when you lost the £36,000, and then say, okay. And then naturally what happens is better things will actually come your way because you've learned from it, you've healed from it. Most importantly, people they get robbed. We all get robbed. I got £16,000 on a late auction fine last week.
Okay.
Yeah. That £16,000 killed most of the profit on a flip.
What happened there? I'm more interested about this.
So I went into I own a house, and then the next house was available for sale. But I always wanted this next door plot because the two plots next door to that was my dad. My dad had some land. Well, acquired my dad some land, and he built 2 houses, 6-bed houses on them that he made into care homes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So because I do a lot of the care route as well. And then I bought the house in between that house, and I built, me and my brother, 4 studio flats in that house. And then the missing piece of the corner I was trying to acquire.
Right.
But the price I wanted to pay for it's so funny because the price was $475 that I offered, and they rejected it
When it went
years
to
ago. This was years ago. All of a sudden, I'm sitting in my office, which I rarely am. The phone rang and was like, "Hi, Chanel, I'm the owner of this property that you wanted to buy 3 years ago. It's come back up." At the moment, I was in the middle of a flip.
Right.
So of a 1-point-something million pound property. So I was like, okay, so I'm on a bridge. I'm about to go into a bridge. I've got someone to buy it, but you and I both know that's never secure.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I'm in a bridge, £8,000 a month.
Wow.
Do I get this property that I've always wanted to finish the puzzle of this road,
The monopoly.
or do I leave it. And, I let him hang, and he said, it's in auction. If you want it, you need to take it out of auction, and I'll give it to you out of auction. So I was like, okay, no problem. I left it a week because of this bridge and this situation. I got on a plane to Dubai. I landed in the morning. On the plane, I always have these like time where I like just think. And I
like the shower, hey?
Should I tell you what? It's my only time. I don't put my data online when I'm on flying. It's the only time I have my phone off in my life is when I'm flying or if I'm sleeping. I go on airplane mode. So it's the only time I really, really, really get to my thoughts because I'm actually awake. Yeah. So, or I'm normally do a night flight, but for the time I'm awake. So then I always write my goals down on the plane. I feel like it's very, very great to do when you're in the sky. It's my favorite place as well, is being in the sky for some reason.
Disconnected from everything.
Yeah. And then I was like, I think I should make him an offer of £50,000 less than what he wants. And if he takes it, he takes it. If you don't, you don't. So I made the offer. I said, listen, I'm really sorry. This is what I can afford right now. He said, okay, Chanel, it's yours. Take it out of auction. You've got 5 hours. So I get to Dubai, quickly call my solicitor, take it out of auction. He's charged me an arm and a leg for taking it out of auction. And then when I saw him, he said, I will give you some extra time if you need it. I said, listen, I can't get into another bridge. I'm in another bridge, £8,000 at the moment. I don't want to depress myself because, it can be so depressing being in bridges for a long period of time. And he said, if you need more time, let me know and I'll extend it. I've obviously gone to Dubai thinking, I've got all the time in the world, la, la, la. As I do, I go into my little la, la land over there. And then the time my broker called me and he was like, I don't know what is going on, but the due diligence for this, he goes, I've never seen it. They want to go back to 2020 with all your bank statements.
Oh, wow.
So they've asked for all my company's accounts. I think because I bought a property in Dubai, they
hate that stuff.
Hate foreign transfers.
AMLs and all sorts of stuff.
So I was like sitting there and I was like, freaking out. So time come Christmas, the week before Christmas, auction houses are really clever the way they position their dates. So it was week before Christmas and I was like, I can't get a mortgage, shit. What am I going to do? Rang them up. They were like, yeah, no problem. We can extend it £10,000. And I was like, £10,000 for an extra week kind of thing. So, yeah.
But did he not say he'll give you extra time?
Yeah.
But that wasn't in writing.
It wasn't in writing. Yeah. It was verbal.
And it's auction.
And he had 4 other owners, partners that he had to question and they really needed this money. I get their point. But at that point, I'm one woman. I'm up against 4 partners of a property. I've got an estate agency that I'm in the process of a sale and a merge with. Right. I'm running a business in Dubai.
It's mind space, isn't it?
And it's like, I physically can't take any more. I got to a point when I come back on the new year and I was like, I'm full up. I'm full up of the stress and I can't take any more of this. So hopefully I'm in that stage now where I'm taking some time out for myself and I really need to do some just me time and figuring stuff out again for myself because I've been hit with that £16,000 fine now. I have to accept it. It is what it is. It's done and try and make that back in other ways. So
wow,
that's where I'm at with that
crazy story, hey, though.
Yeah, that's only one. But so you felt quite vulnerable, obviously.
Yeah, ultimately it's the first step into business.
Yeah.
And everyone's telling you don't do it. Everyone's telling you this is not the right, all of this kind of negativity around you. And you start questioning yourself because you've not made any money, you've not done anything, and all of a sudden it's gone wrong. So you start questioning. And that's the hardest. If that happened when I already made £1 million or 500 grand, whatever it was, it's okay, you can blend it in. But at the start, when you've made nothing, it's
But then
hard.
You have to ask yourself why, which I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
And obviously change that and try and not make them mistakes again. And to me, it's something so, you need to be so kind to yourself, and love yourself all the time. But I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're quite hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's not very fair sometimes,
Yeah, but it's the only way you keep going when things go wrong because you're almost running and the glass underneath you is basically breaking and you have to run faster and faster and faster. But at the same time, as I said to you, I'm going through this phase now of really trying to discover what it is that makes me happy and all the rest of it. And actually, I want to start doing these 3 to 4 months of hard work, head down, a week off, 2 weeks off, whatever it is. And just do things, because the thing is, having too much time off is also not good for entrepreneurs because as an entrepreneur, I love having the pressure because without the pressure, we don't work. We are the last minute people, unless there's a last minute thing, we don't do it.
Are you a bit chaotic?
Yeah, I call it organized chaos. So it is organized chaos, right? Everything, even the big businesses, they are chaotic, but it's organized chaos and things run but ultimately not everything isn't perfect. There's no thing as perfection in business.
It's to me, it's madness if you don't have a problem.
Exactly.
You know, it's chaos is a great thing, and a lot of good things are built up from chaos.
Yeah.
But you need to be organized with it, which is something I'm very trying. That's one of my downfalls at the moment is organization.
But that's why you need, like, even when you go into McDonald's and they have some of the best systems and processes in the world,
Yeah.
it can still be really chaotic if they have so many more people than they expected,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
ultimately, they have a foundation, they have a structure of this is how you make your burger, this is how you do this is how you do that.
Yeah.
So having that ultimate foundation is what's going to help you. But ultimately, you can't control when you're going to be so busy or, you know, that deal's going to come across your desk and you can't.
Me.
You know
So
what I mean?
I opened an estate agency when I was 19,
Okay,
and
wow.
that really grew out of nothing. And with me, what I've realized now in my 30s, I'm like, I'm actually not good at running a business, and it's okay. I'm not good at I'm not good. I've come from a childhood where I spent a lot of money on nice things. My name is Chanel, so I've always loved designer. So I've always driven a Range Rover, which is why I call my company Range Homes. You know, so my dad's always had Lamborghini, whatever. I've not always, by the way. I wasn't brought up with money, but he did really well for himself at certain points, and he enjoyed his lifestyle as well. And I enjoyed my lifestyle. And you kind of pick up your parents as well, what they do. And then I got to a place when I was putting my business under audit.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, my business, I just basically grew it, let it run itself, and then carried on growing it, but not looking after the back office of it. So like accounts were never really on top. I've never really been on top of the accounts and that side of things. And I've always put people in place to deal with it, but I've never wanted to deal with it. So I'm like, okay, well, you're at a position in your life where you're like, this is what you're good at, which is drawing the business in. I'm fantastic at selling. So just stick to selling and drawing the business in, and then changing your organization structure and your structure of your life, and then say, how am I going to monetize now moving forward, but in a completely different space. So I feel like them lessons in business are crucial. I mean, you seem really organized. What's helped you like get into this space? Is it from your upbringing?
Well, to be honest with you, although it looks like I'm organized because other people are organized in the company. So I've specifically brought people in that are way more organized than I am. I'm also very much on the front end of a lot of things, right? So there is a lot of stuff where I don't do detail. Like that's just me. I'm just basically running as fast as I can, and everyone else behind me is basically putting the pieces together. But I have brought people in strategically, whether it's business partners, whether it's employees, but I've brought them in where they've got completely opposite skill sets to me, detailed, very organized. So they always tell me off for not being organized. You know, you've not put this in the right place. You've not put, you know, why you send me a WhatsApp, you can put it into our Asana or so, whatever it is. But it's bringing the right people in is the most important.
So do you feel like other people is what you need to grow?
Yeah, I feel like people is the hardest part of business. Like finding the right people and then managing them and then retaining them.
Biggest challenge.
Is the hardest thing.
Biggest challenge.
But if you can crack that, that's the biggest thing to growing, because ultimately you're going to always get to burnout. And every time I get to burnout, I'm like, who have I not employed that I need to employ?
1,000,000%.
That's
oh my God.
everything that I always say.
The problem with me, and I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, is that I feel I have this like motherly thing over all my team. So I'm like, I want to put their needs in front of mine, and it's a people pleasing thing that I've always had. Again, it's like my downfall.
But that's just your character. That's not necessarily just a womanly thing. I think that's just sometimes even I would like to do that for certain people. Like for example, if they're getting.
I really like you. Do you know what I mean? I don't want you to go, but you need to go.
But the problem is
we need to work harder.
This is where you need a good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
So I always said in our business, use me as the bad cop if you want to, because ultimately I have, for example, people in the lettings business who do need to go, but ultimately, maybe the Reese who manages that has not come to me and told me that. I've figured it out because a problem has happened, and all of a sudden from that problem, it's like, right, working it backwards, like, okay, this is the person that's the problem. And I'm like, why haven't you come to me and said that? So I'm like, okay, fine, just let me know and I will deal with it ultimately. But you know what? You do need to hire, slow and fire fast. That is the most important. I know it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason.
What do you look for hiring someone?
I look for dedication. Like dedication is the most, like if someone's going to stay late or come in early, and what I'm not interested in is someone that comes literally at 9 o'clock on the dot and then goes and does their tea and their coffee and their biscuits and all the rest of it. And then you end up at 9:30, that's when they start working.
Yeah.
And then as soon as something little happens,
I know, my blood's like boiling at that point. When
you know
I'm in
what I
the
mean?
kitchen, I'm like,
it's like, look,
Why
you
have
know,
you just come in and gone down to the kitchen?
exactly. Be
What do
super
I say? But
organised.
this is, again, that's something where I can be really brutal.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like I'm sure my previous staff members would say, like, she's very, very brutal. But at the same time, I'm so rewarding for my brutality.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, okay, you didn't take a break today. I'm ordering you Joe's and the juice.
Okay.
You know, I'm like, I'll get you an Uber home if I feel like you deserve that.
But that's good
then
because
I'll get you an Uber the next day because you've overdone 2 hours, you know?
but you're rewarding good habit.
Yes.
And good habit will bring you more good habits because other people will be like, why am I not getting that? And then they'll start to question it. So I think good habits is really good. I'm the type of person that when you're doing really good, I will make you aware of that as well. So I'm not just telling you about the negative things. I'm telling people when they are really good because ultimately people love recognition. They want to feel like, you know, it's like when you're in school and your teacher recognizes you for doing something. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
But also I do loads of little things. Like I've had a few team members that have got married recently. You know, I bought them a gold necklace and they were absolutely crying about it because for them it wasn't just the money. It was the actual thought process and sentiment. And for me, the longer people are in our business with us, the more we will do for them as well.
Of course.
So
It's like me with my staff's children. Like I always like get the kids presents, you know,
important.
and I don't even have children. So I'm like really, really big. I'm like, bring your kids to work. I want to see them. How are they on their birthdays? Take a day off. I'm really good with my staff. Hospital, take it off. I don't, you know, I'm very fair, but at the same time, if there's mistakes made, I'm very sharp, so you have to really say. But when I'm interviewing someone now, I really want to. What I'm going to look for is obviously hard work and dedication, but you know their core values in life.
Yeah. Like
obviously, success to me is one of my core values. If I meet someone whose success isn't a core value for them, and that's why it upsets me a little bit when I see these memes and stuff and stuff on social media. It's like, oh, you'll never get anywhere working for someone and, you know, you'll never do this. But wait a minute, if you're working for one of the most influential people in what they do, what you're learning off of them influential people is so amazing that you'll never learn that off of even doing your own business. Like I can learn so much off of you. If I was working for you, I'll be able to learn even more of you. You know, I've just sat here and I've learned your different skill sets in life is completely different to my skill sets in life. So it's like, why would you? And that's what it's like. Everyone wants to now grow fast and do this but no, to me, education is the biggest form of learning.
Not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Can we not say that more and more? That, you know, like everyone thinks, oh, being an entrepreneur is the be all and end all. It's not, because not everyone is resilient enough to take all the challenges and solve them. Not everyone is going to be able to kind of put all the pieces together. They're not all going to be people.
Not at all.
So generally, you get some people that are like introverts, but they're amazing at what they do, and they enjoy not having the stress of owning a business and just being able to do really well at their job. And those are the people that, like you said, those memes do kind of, they get to me as well, because ultimately it's like, if one of my team members saw that, what would I think that they think?
So I'll never repost something like that.
I wouldn't either.
I keep back of those ones. I'm like,
you've got to be conscious. You've got to be conscious of that.
But I feel like with entrepreneurs, generally, I mean, I was pretty naughty child. I don't really like listening to rules. I like breaking rules a little bit. Yeah. So I feel like I feel that's a pattern that entrepreneurs have, is that they were probably maybe in a strict background growing up and they kind of wanted to do their own thing and be very individual and unique, and that made them an entrepreneur. So there's some people that are complete opposite. Yeah, they want structure, they want the same thing all the time, and they don't like stepping out of the lines, and very regulated. And I don't know, I like that stress.
Yeah,
I love the stress. I like the pressure. I feel that's why I'm driven.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, look at, let's just say, for example, Christmas time, right? Because Christmas time is when, especially if you're in the UK market, the UK is like absolutely dead. No one's doing anything.
It hasn't been the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Crazy
Jen, let's just say those couple of days, even
last
just
10 years,
Christmas Day, at least Christmas Day, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Christmas Day, absolutely nothing happens for that one day. And as soon as it gets to Boxing Day or the day after, everyone starts messaging me, I'm getting itchy fingers, I want to get back into things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's because as entrepreneurs, we just don't deal with having no problems, no stress, no, you know, we need something to keep us going.
Yeah, but then I do believe that's the ego really, really telling you that you need to keep going. And
Yeah.
I've done so much work on getting the ego away from me. And I feel like when I'm in Dubai, I'm in such a great place where my ego stops talking and more like focusing on what do you enjoy doing. So like me, I love this, you know, and I'm like, there's no resistance to coming on a pod with you. There was zero resistance to it. Even though it's even though it's an hour and a half away, you come far, but we're doing something amazing. We're educating people. We're talking. When would me and you ever probably have a time to meet up for a coffee and have a chat? It won't happen. We'll say we're going to do it.
And that is the problem. But the fact that you can learn from each other in situations like this is even better. That's
and then
what
how
I love
about everyone else listening to us?
Exactly.
What they're going to learn, hopefully. And that's what we're here for, right? So what's your aim at the moment with your businesses?
Do you know what? My big goal right now is to make the businesses less dependent on me, right? And I don't mean that from a point of view of I want to go retire on a beach somewhere. That's absolutely not me. I'm going to work until I die. That's just how I am. But what I want to try and do is if the businesses become less dependent on me, i.e. if I take myself out of the normal processes, etc., that we do, then it means I can focus my time on the growth side of things, on managing people, on leading people. And that for me is where I think it will, my time and effort is going to be very, very valuable for the business. So for me, a large part of my focus is there. I'm really focused on trading. So trading is my day to day. So I really get a thrill from even if I buy something and sell it and make $5,000, $10,000, it doesn't really matter. Even if I make $1,000, the fact that we bought it and sold it, and the other day,
that buzz.
It's the buzz.
Just buying and selling, you're done.
The other day, can't remember what it was, but I just had some things in the house that we didn't need, and I was like, do you know what, I'm going to put that on eBay, not because I needed the money, but just because I just loved the whole. And then I sold it, and I was like, and I showed my wife, I was like, look at this, it's sold.
I made £5 today.
Yeah,
She's probably like, you made like £500,000 this year.
But it's just that buzz of buying and selling. I used to love car boot sales when I was a little kid.
Oh my God, same.
Selling, not buying, but selling. I used to
have my own car boot like once a month.
I used to love going to buying stuff, but then sometimes my parents and my brothers and sisters would be like, where's all our stuff gone? And I'll be like, yeah, sorry, but I went into the attic and took everyone's stuff.
I used to go to my friends' houses, my auntie's house. I used to be in my nan's loft, looking for plates and stuff.
It was but that is part of being an entrepreneur though, isn't it? Is buying and selling. That's what it's about.
And do you feel like that's one of your skill sets then, selling?
I do. I feel like I use the word arbitrage quite a lot, and it's used probably in the wrong ways these days a lot of the time. But for me, arbitrage is about, can you buy a multiple packet of 6 of something and then sell it individually and make a markup on that? That's arbitrage. I even we have a property trading deal clinic and I have different people in there, and I teach them something called property auction arbitrage, and that's literally buying from one auction the exact same property, doing nothing to it, and selling it to another auction and making money. And they're like, but how does that work? And that works because ultimately marketing is a big thing. So marketing it, one auction markets way better than another auction, for example, and maybe they've not taken proper photos. Yeah. Maybe there's no access to the property.
I've seen your video on the auction, was it auction podcast?
Yeah.
And you're with 5, 6 different people and you're talking about what it's going to go for. I found that so fun.
Yeah.
And you were really great in that.
That's the property auction hunter. So we kind of, I sit with Jay and Piotr, and we kind of sit and look at basically different auction lots and just try and figure out what the angle is, et cetera, et cetera.
I love that Royal Mail building.
That went cheap.
That was really, really good. And I was like, gosh.
That's a good long-term play though.
Yeah. So is a lot of your time spent looking for sites in auction?
Not necessarily. No. So a large part of what we do is direct to vendor. But do you know what? One of my team members will, if we've not got enough leads coming in or whatever, that month we've not hit our targets, she's trained on being able to go onto the auction websites and just have a look at, there's a few different areas that we'll basically look at stuff, and she knows kind of if there's something that's been mismarketed or there's an angle on it that someone's missed. Like we'll buy a tenanted property, for example, where it's very, very low yield and an investor won't buy it, a developer won't buy it, owner-occupier won't buy it for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
We'll buy it, asset manage it, get it vacant, and then sell it on.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, we made 20, 30% because we've taken a property that no one wants to buy and made it a property that's very,
lucrative.
very,
but
very
you're sitting on it for a while doing that.
Could be 6 months, could be 9 months, or we could
up to a year at the moment.
Yeah, sometimes we'll speak to a tenant though. We don't normally get it to a possession. We don't normally go no. Okay. So sometimes we'll speak to the tenant and we'll say, look, realistically, are you wanting to stay in here? If they say no, then we'll say, well, can we help you towards your next deposit, whatever. Yeah. We might give them £1,000, £2,000, whatever it is. But I feel like tenants are people.
Amazing.
And you need to speak to them and see whether they do and don't, what do they actually want,
me
and work
too.
with them, right?
Yeah.
Because so many times, and I own a letting agency, again, I
Yeah,
come back to this
so we
point.
know how it works.
We know how it works.
Yeah, we know how
Everything's very much black and white. Like,
1,000,000%.
right, if you stop doing this, I'm
Yeah.
going to serve you a section.
Yeah.
But
When my clients call me and they're like, oh, I've got a tenant in and she won't leave. And I was like, well, what does she want?
have you spoken to
Yeah,
her?
have you called her? Like, what does she
And
want?
I don't mind getting involved and actually going, like, sometimes
I call them up.
Yeah,
I'm at
I'll
the
roll
door
my sleeves up
sometimes.
and I'll call people and I'll speak to
Yeah.
them. And you know what? They really, really appreciate
They
it.
really do.
And they'll open up. Now,
Yeah.
you'll get 2% of the people that just will bury their head in the sand and will basically
Yeah.
tell you to do one, etc., etc. Fine, you can't do anything about
Yeah.
that.
I know. I'm like, okay, you're going for a possession. You're going for maintenance calls back. You want compensation. And you kind of know, been so long in the business, what people's like direction is. And you're like, you're just going to have to work with it and deal with it and move on, really. So what is your model then with your flipping? Because this sounds so exciting.
Yeah.
You've done 420. What was your...
240.
240, sorry.
Nearly.
Is your model to get to 420?
So do you know what? By kind of, I mean,
Because I've called it out now, so it
no,
must, it
my
must
model
be.
is to get to 500, but
There you
I'll
go.
adjust that to 420.
You settle when it's 420, we're going for dinner.
So
We're celebrating.
I think for me, I want to try and get to basically 500 by 2027. That's kind of the goal.
Aim. And how many are you doing a month?
So we're doing about 5 a month.
Gosh.
So we will get there, but we have the system.
And
So
you've got no grey hair.
I know, but do you know what? I do have one or two. Do you know what it is? I'll give you an example. Utilities, right? Opening and closing utilities takes a hell of a lot of time when you're buying and selling properties. But we've got that process down so well, and we've got one person in the business dedicated just to utilities. So our process, if you want to kind of get into it, is if you're buying and selling within 3 months, rather than calling them and trying to open and then call them again and trying to close and give them the open and closing meter readings, she will literally send one email, not a call, an email, because they take ages on the call.
I'll forget the calls, yeah.
She'll send an email and she'll say, here's the opening, this is when we bought it, here's the closing, this is when we sold it. That's it. End of story.
Yeah.
And if they ever come back to us with, court summons and all the rest of it, we've got it all in writing, etc.
Right, and that's what I do with my management.
So it's just so much easier. Just having that little efficiency
little bit of a
allows you to
change.
basically do volume.
But what do you work on a percentage with your markups on your trades?
Yeah, so we're looking really at if we make 15% on average, that's where we're at.
That's great because I went to meet a developer last week. A 3-hour meeting that took, and I need to stop doing this because my time is very precious. I need to say that my time is very precious. And he said, "Oh, my markup." I said, "So what's your markup?" And he said 40%. And I looked at him and I was like, 40%? You want a 40% yield in London? And I was like, "You absolutely." So it's great that you need to be realistic with your markups. And is that why you base it on volume instead of
exactly. I mean, for
yield?
us, the main thing is, so look, you might make 40-50% on one, but they're the 1 in 10, 1 in 20, 1 in 30 unicorn deals, right? You will get them, but you get them because you're consistent, right?
Unicorn deals.
Yeah, but you get them because you're consistent with things. So with time, things will happen. For me, doing volume is about reducing risk, right? And this is one thing that people need to understand. You do one deal, there's a big risk that you might lose money on that deal. And if you've lost on 100% of your deals. You do 10 deals, you might lose on 2, you may break even on 2, and you will make profit on 6, for example, on average. But overall, you come out with a profit. So it reduces your risk by doing more volume. So
is your goal... Are you very money driven in this instance, would you say?
Not necessarily. I mean, money's obviously a big thing for me because money, especially when you have overheads, money pays the overheads, right? That's key. But for me, it's also about having a team that is basically working in harmony, working together really, really well. And for me, it's about trying to be able to create something that is sustainable. So I don't want to be able to kind of do all of this stuff and then think, right, I've made money now. Now what? What do I do with that money?
Yes, that's what we said earlier. I've done it now. I've got to 500 and now what am I going to do?
Exactly. I want something that's going to be sustainable, again, without me. Like, I'm always thinking if something, and
because I asked you who does your offers to your vendors and you said someone else. And I'm like, I don't know how I'd feel about someone else doing my offers with my money.
I know, but you know what?
It's great.
When you start to grow and scale a business that is, so we're not doing, for example, I mean, just let's think about it, right? Barratt Homes or Red Row, whoever it is, the owners are not actually making the day-to-day decisions, for example. They've got people, but I think if you employ the right people and teach them exactly what's in your head, I know it's hard as entrepreneurs, they will do things better than you will because they'll be regimented. Let me tell you this one thing though. The worst deals I've ever done is because emotion came into play.
Emotion.
And if, for example, for me, it's Janica. If Janica offered on those deals and followed our process, we would not have lost money on them, because our
1,000,000%.
process is
It's
really.
where you get involved.
It's
You're
where
like,
it's-
I used to live it with me in this story, isn't it? Shouldn't have bought it, really. I was over leveraged. But
emotion.
because the owner called me and I had to sit down with my life coach and work out why did I get myself into this chaos. And it was because he called me. I didn't want to let him down because I've said, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
And he then ended up, and look what it actually ended up backfire on me. So it's them emotional deals.
Was that an ego purchase though? Because it's the whole monopoly side
No,
of things.
I feel like it wasn't an ego purchase. I think it's a family business. That portfolio is a bit of a family one, and where my family was invested. Again, I'm a people pleaser, and I don't want to let my family down on
You want to
things.
complete the whole puzzle.
Yeah,
kind
and
of
I
thing.
felt
Right.
bad for not buying it, you know, because I'm the top of the chain and I hold everything together in that sense with my family. My little brother, well, he's not little, but yeah, he's my brothers are my little brothers. They're my babies.
Okay.
So yeah, how about you? Have you got any siblings?
I do. I have a brother and a sister. My brother works in the business with me.
Amazing.
My sister lives out in Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah, she works for basically it's a company that does fractional property ownership. So they empower like the local Emirati woman to basically buy shares in a property.
I have to meet her.
Effectively, yeah. So I'll link you up
Yeah,
with her actually, because they buy
definitely.
properties in Dubai as well, which is
Wow,
interesting.
okay.
So
Oh,
yeah, basically making it more affordable for people that don't have the money
is
to buy
she
a
living
property.
her best life out there?
She is. She's got her son. She's got a husband. You know, she's really enjoying life out there. So
It's crazy that you all fell into property.
I know. You know what? We are a property family.
Really?
We are actually, like, everything we talk about is property pretty much. So
Same with me and my dad.
Yeah.
Like yesterday was a Sunday, and I believe you, 3 hours we're sitting there over fish and chips, and we're like, "Yeah, what are we doing on that deal? What's going on there? What's going on there? We're going with that property." So it's like, I was like, Dad, I was like, we just don't stop. It's just all we know, you know. We don't. It's funny because when I see him with his partner and her family, they're all like talking about nothing to property, and I'm like, why does he only talk to me about property? But it's just how it is, I guess. And I wouldn't change it. I don't think. I think we're just that way. How about your dad? How's he?
we talk about business. We talk
Yeah.
about property. I mean, we don't. I'll probably say we don't sit and talk about that as much as what we would have talked about it if I was kind of 20, 30 years ago in his life, but
Yeah.
we do talk about it quite a bit. I mean, he always asks, how's the business going? He also sends me a lot of these articles on like The Guardian or something. When they have those clickbaity articles of property prices have gone down and interest rates and all the rest of it. And
I'm like,
I'm
Dad, seriously, give it a rest.
I literally said, I'm way ahead of the media. Like in our cash buying business, right? I'm seeing, I swear to you, this is what happened in 2021, right? If you remember when we had that crazy market in 2021, I was having people calling up our cash buying company saying, I want to sell this property because I want to buy cryptocurrency. In 2021.
Don't talk to me about that subject.
2024, we've got people saying, I'm going to get repossessed next week.
Yeah.
I need to exchange this week. And we see things way ahead of...
Same with me and owning an
You know
estate
what I mean?
agency.
Exactly.
Obviously,
When
I was
people call
really
you up.
busy in COVID because of the probate deaths. So we had a lot of probate. I'm sure you had a lot of calls
Absolutely.
in COVID as well. Pre-COVID, like you say, my client rang me up once and she was like, I need to sell my house today. And she goes, I'll get rid of it, whatever, £200,000 under. I said, what are you going to do with the money? She said, I'm putting it all into crypto. And now she's not in a good place, obviously, because she's lost two of her properties she sold and put into crypto and lost that money. But at the same time, I see people now, how do you feel about crypto? Because you're trading property. Have you ever thought to trade anything else?
No. And I'll tell you why. Love
that
and I
answer.
have traded other things and I've lost money on other things, just to be really, really clear. I've realized that I'm very, very good at trading residential property, right? Get me out of my circle of competence. Commercial property, I'm not as good at.
Yeah,
Get me into stocks
too.
and shares, I'm not as good at. Get me into crypto, I'm not as good at. However, saying that, so that's my kind of circle of competence, right? That's where I'm very, very good. I've got every single advantage that I can. Anything else I'm losing money on because I'm not good. But would I invest into crypto is another question.
Yeah.
That's a different question, because that's more from a, do I
Would
believe...
you invest now?
I would say like stocks and shares, right? If you're
Yeah.
going to pound cost average, so if you're going to look at this from a, I don't need this money for the next 30 years,
Yeah.
and you can pound cost average, so buy regularly, I think it's probably one of the best asymmetric risks, right? Which basically is the highest upside with basically as limited downside as you're going to get on that high sort of reward. So for me, it's an all or nothing trade. So it's a put 10 grand into it, it's either going to be nothing or £1 million in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's that asymmetric risk. There's not much else that carries that asymmetric risk
And with
in today's
property
world.
now, you don't retain
We do retain. I mean, we've retained what we've retained, but we don't need any more.
at the moment. What model do you feel like's working for like all of our viewers and people that want to get into property?
I mean, look, what works for people doesn't work necessarily for me. Everything works differently, right? Have I tried rent to rent? Yes. Has it worked for me? No, it hasn't. However, it could work for people that have that skill set and have the time on their hands, but effectively it's a good management. It's a management company, isn't it, really? That's what you do, rent to rent. Does commercial conversions work? It works for certain people. I genuinely don't think there's a single thing in property that doesn't work. I think you just need to figure out what works well for you. My perspective, though, on it is if anyone is looking to start out, know what you've got. Have you got money? Have you got time? Have you got skill set? And if not,
Give
then
it to someone else.
give it to someone else or partner. You know, if you've got the money, go
Yeah.
JV with someone.
Yeah.
If you've got the time and effort, go do the low barrier to entry, rent to rents, etc.
And do you think holding on now, portfolio landlords, is becoming a thing of the past?
I think so. I can again at the coalface, like you, I can start to see there's a lot of institutions coming into the residential space now. So lots of big players like America and Germany starting to come into this space because the government have opened it up. So I do feel like build to rent is a big model right now, and that's obviously what's becoming more and more trendy in London and Manchester and Birmingham. We're seeing all these big cities where they've got access to co-working, to a swimming pool, to whatever it is they need, you know, gym, etc. I think being a landlord and living off that rent is extremely hard. Extremely, because you just don't know when the boiler's going to go. You don't know, you know, even if you
new
put
property licensing laws have all come in.
everything, roof needs replacement.
Yeah.
We've had so many properties.
You just can't. I just feel like you just can't have rent as your income, your sole course of income anymore.
Exactly. So for me, rent is a long-term top-up to my day-to-day trading income. But I feel like if you're going to get into just using rent as your day-to-day income, it's very difficult to start off today and do that from scratch.
Definitely, that's really great advice. So thank you for that. What are your challenges? What would you say your daily challenges are, or weekly? You might not have a lot of daily challenges because I know people that are quite woke. They have not a lot of challenges.
No.
But what challenges do you face, and how are you willing to change that?
People.
Okay.
Whether you're dealing internally with people or externally with people.
Yeah.
So trying to speak to people and trying to get your point across and trying to get their point across back to you and trying to figure out a solution for things is quite difficult. Whether that's tenants, internally, etc., you know, or vendors. So I say people is our biggest challenge. And then, I mean, to be honest with you, always finding the stock at the right money is always a challenge, even for us. You know, if I can buy 10 properties a month, I will, but just trying to find that motivation is very difficult. So those two things, finding the stock and basically people.
And what do you think your predictions are for the UK property market in 2024?
I feel like 2024 is probably you're going to have a small amount of growth. It's not going to go astronomical, but it's also not going to go down. I feel like you're going to have that 3 or 4% growth rate.
The rent's definitely going to go up in 2024.
Rent's 100%, and it's already started.
Yeah, it has.
I feel like rents went up really quickly and then went up a bit slower and now gone up quickly again.
Yeah.
But I feel like property prices have very much stabilized. 2023 was crazy. It was a roller coaster. But 2024, they're stabilized and they're going up very incrementally, which is good.
Yeah, I just feel like we didn't really hit a price drop in COVID.
Correct.
We didn't hit a price drop really after COVID. We haven't really, what I would say 10-15% max in some areas that have dropped. But saying that, I'm seeing a lot of properties go on the market at the moment. And we are actually completing on transactions. So the UK property market is a fantastic, strong market.
I think you've also got a lot of people that put off putting their property on the market in 2023 that have now decided to. So I think I feel like you're going to have this little wave of loads of properties on the market, but also you're going to have loads of buyers on the market as well.
There's a lot of buyers that are actually coming to me. So what are your plans now for your growth in the next 2 years?
So I do feel like the property trading side, if we can go from 5 to 8 properties a month, that's going to be an amazing growth. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, 5 to 8, but when you think about it over the course of a year, 2 years, that's going to be quite a lot more properties.
You find that so stressful? 8 transactions or 5 transactions a month?
No, not if you've got a good solicitor. Not if you've
brokers.
got your the whole process needs to be down to a T. I don't get involved in the finance side of our business anymore. So whether that's using a bridging or whatever it is, that's all systemized. So we unless it's like a last minute, I need to make a phone call to push something because it's very time dependent. But other than that, generally things move pretty smoothly.
So what's a day in your life?
Meetings, a hell of a lot of meetings. So it's literally weekly meetings with people, whether it's so Monday morning, obviously we have the meeting, we go through every single property on Monday that is either going through a sale, going through a purchase, or is what we call live. So whether it's needing a refurb, whether it's needing maintenance, whatever it is, anything that doesn't need it.
So stuff in your pipeline, basically.
Yeah, stuff in the pipeline. And then just meetings on acquisitions, sales. I sometimes roll my sleeves up and get involved in calling vendors and speaking to them. And I actually enjoy that part.
I love that. That's me being my broker, neg.
Exactly. That's being at the coalface and trying to speak to people.
Yeah. I've got a lot of calls to make this week. So.
Yeah, I do as well, to be fair. But then also, I really, really enjoy the kind of, we call it social media, but this kind of side of things of speaking to people and getting to, like, business takes you some amazing, I've literally met some amazing people over the course of, the last couple of years of doing business. And this for me is amazing. It's part of it.
Oh, that's amazing. And where would you say, so you do a lot with the auctioneers and networking? Do you do a lot of networking
Loads
events?
of networking, yeah.
What's your favourite kind of form of networking?
So I used to go to a lot of different networking events, A, to speak, but B, as a kind of attendee. And recently what I've realised is property trading, there is no network of people doing much within the property trading world. So I decided to create basically a community of property traders, aspiring property traders.
I've seen that on your Instagram.
Yeah, so it's people that basically we call it the property trading deal clinic, right? So it's for actual people that are doing stuff. Whether you're a property sourcer and you're like, I want to monetize these deals better. I don't want to just make $3,000 or $5,000. I want to make 10, 15, 20 grand.
Well, you add a bit on top.
Like an overage or a back-to-back, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's how do you monetize your deal flow better? And then also people that are like, investing's not really working today. I want to start looking more at trading and building up a cash pot. Because the last thing that I'll kind of leave your viewers on is I have this simple model, right? It's called earn, amplify, invest, and then compound that, right? And I feel like so many people earn a bit of money and then go and invest it, and you're killing off your capital too quickly.
Yeah.
But if you're amplifying it, so if you're doubling that cash pot, tripling it, quadrupling it, before you go to invest, that's what people are missing. And that's where trading, whether you're flipping or whether you're just buying and selling, that's where the amplification phase comes in. So you need to basically increase your cash pot before you start investing.
Yeah. And the way to do that is obviously without fear, and without resistance. And I feel like that's what a lot of people have. And that's what I'm here to try and help people is eliminate their fear and so they can capitalize and grow, really.
Yeah.
Because you seem obviously very fearless to want to grow this big and do so amazingly so young. So that's absolutely incredible. Do you feel fearless?
Yeah, I feel like if you know what you're doing, like, again, take me and put me into stocks and shares and I have fear because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like a fish out of water. Yeah. Put me into residential property and I don't have any fears because ultimately I can solve it. So I think fear comes from not having the knowledge or the experience or the people around you, right? But you've got to basically you've got to have conviction that even when everything's falling, around you, you've got to keep going.
Oh, that's such an amazing thing. And this community that you have, how is it? I might join it.
Yeah, so...
Is it worth it? What is it?
Yeah, so we have like 20 members. Basically, we sit on a Zoom every other week. People bring properties to the table to discuss. So how do you finance it? How do you structure the deal? Is there any creative ways to avoid stamp duty if you can?
So some challenges and and stuff people go through.
And then how do you sell it, basically? Yeah. But also, I go through case studies to show people how I've done. But people look at the case studies and they're like, wow, you've made money from that. But then I'm like, if I showed you that deal at the start, you would not have bought it. Yes. Because sometimes you just need to...
You don't know.
You just need to do it.
You need some other eyes. You need a fresh set of eyes and other minds to go into it.
Exactly.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
What is your favourite book?
Think and Grow Rich.
Okay, why?
One of my favourite books. It was probably one of my first, apart from the classic kind of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was one of my first books that kind of got me to really start to think, actually, there's a lot of money to be made outside of employment. So Think and Grow Rich was a big one.
And a song that you could base your life upon. I said I wasn't going to ask you, but a theme song. How would you say your life is on a daily basis?
For the life of me, I cannot remember the lyrics to any song right now.
Do you listen to music?
I do listen to music, but you know what?
Sure? What music do you listen to?
I listen to a bit of R&B, but also listen to a bit of like techno and house. But I don't. Every time I listen to music, it's a blur for me. Like I'm not actually like consciously thinking about what they're saying. I'm just kind of listening to the beat and rhythm and stuff. So yeah, I could not name a song. I genuinely couldn't.
Oh,
I would love to, but I just can't name you a
that's
song.
a shame. That's okay. Don't worry.
Frozen.
All
Let's
right.
do that. The
How
theme
about-
song from
oh
Frozen.
gosh, for your daughter and a film. What would you say your life is based on a film, or you don't watch films either?
No, I do watch films. The Big Short. Let's call that. I don't know why that came to mind, but I absolutely love that movie. The Big Short is brilliant.
Oh, see, that's really good. I said mine's like Titanic.
Oh wow, okay.
I'm joking. And Scarface, bit of mixed in between.
Scarface is a good one.
Mixed in between.
That
them
is a
both.
good one.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. It's been so incredible. And guys, I would love you guys to follow Saif on his Instagram and social media. He's doing some amazing things on property, and I'm sure you can learn a lot just by watching him as well. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you guys.